Here's the thing. I didn't really know him.
I didn't really know him, but maybe that was the problem.
I didn't really know him, but somehow I can't stop thinking about him.
He looked at me that day.
He looked at me.
In the eye.
He just,
Anyway,
Did it mean anything?
it didn't mean anything.
how could it have meant anything?
He just,
So that day started like any other day. I went to zero period. I went to leadership, zero period.
so early.
7 in the morning. And I'm rushing over to the B building because my phone alarm didn't go off or I didn't hear it or whatever. Point is, I'm running late and I'm rushing over to the building. I jump out of my mom's car and rush through the parking lot, past the cafeteria. And it's at this point, wham! I don't realize it, but someone was standing right in my path and I run them over. Like a football player, practically just plow right through them. Upon impact, I stop and turn around to see who it was, and
Jack?
on the ground.
Jack.
And I thought, this is weird. I don't usually see him on campus this early. There's only a handful of kids that have zero period, and we all kind of recognize each other at this point. But he was never someone I saw. If I'm being honest, I really didn't remember his name at the time.
Jack.
But of course, now I do.
Jack.
Anyway, I look at him on the floor. And I kind of want to go over to help him, but I'm also kind of late, so I hesitate. He sees me look at him, but he gets himself up, so I'm like, good. He's not hurt, you know? He stands there, looking right at me. And I'm thinking, okay, what are you just looking at me for? So I say, you all right? And he says nothing. He just stares at me. So I say, okay, well, my bad. And he says nothing. And I just stare at him. The next thing I know, he raises his hand up, which sort of startled me because I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? But then he just starts waving at me. And I don't know what to do. And so I say, all right, man. Bye. And I rush off to class, you know?
I don't know. I tried to talk to him sometimes. Not that day, but others. We weren't friends or anything, but it wasn't out of the ordinary for me to like say hi, I guess.
Right.
In Mrs. Chang's class, she likes to switch up who sits at what desk every couple of weeks, so you don't really get to talk to anyone consistently. But we sat with each other every now and again, and I tried to talk with him. He was always real quiet, but he seemed nice enough, you know. Thing is, honestly, I think he might have had a little bit of a crush on me. Is that terrible to say or weird to say? Or why am I saying any of this? It's not important or not about me, but anyway, my point is we weren't sitting next to each other that day. The way Mrs. Chang assigned the seats, we weren't supposed to be next to each other. So I walked into class and I walked up to my desk and he was sitting there with his head down, like resting on his arms. Like, you know, the way someone falls asleep at their desk. But he wasn't asleep. His eyes were open, face buried in his arms. So I go, hey.
Jack.
Jack.
You're in my seat. And he slowly raised his head up and he just looks at me. And I look at him back and I don't know what else to say. I look around the class and everyone's getting their books out, and I look at Mrs. Chang and she's writing a late pass for some other kid, and I look back at him and he's still looking at me. Blank? Is that the right word? I don't know. Because like he was looking at me, but it didn't totally feel like he was looking at me. He was almost looking past me, but at the same time,
Jack.
had to be seeing something. It was me right in front of, and it was me looking at
Jack.
and his blank stare. So I repeat myself, "You're in my seat." And this time it registers, I think, because he stands up from my seat, stands up from my desk. But then he raises his hand up a bit, still staring right at me, or right in my direction at least. And he begins to wave. And again, I look around at the class, at Mrs. Chang, at anyone, and no one seems to notice. And I don't know what to do, so I pretend not to notice until stops waving, puts his hand down, and walks away. So I can sit down, take out my book, and begin class.
The bell rang. It was lunch period. Finally, I thought, not knowing that. You know how I work in the cafeteria?
Yeah.
My mom can't really afford a lunch for me every day, so the school has me work as a way to get one for free.
The lunch line.
The a la carte section, they call it. I sell the popular food, the junk food, can of soda, bagels, hot Cheetos with the cup of cream cheese meant for bagels. My line always ends up the busiest. I like it, to be honest. I get to interact with different people. I try to remember their order or guess their order, all in my head though. I don't ever tell anyone I'm guessing their order or anything because I don't know. They think I'm weird or something. Anyway, thing is,
Jack.
was the easiest to guess.
Jack.
Was the most consistent. He ordered the same thing every day, a bag of Gardetto's trail mix and a can of orange soda. I'd see him every day eat only the rye chips in the bag, which was odd because we also sold a bag of Gardetto's that was just rye chips. But he always ordered the trail mix. I found it so weird, but I never asked why. Yesterday, actually, he came up to buy his trail mix and soda, but we were out of trail mix. I told him this, but then offered up the bag of rye chips. He just looked at me and smiled. And I remember at this moment thinking, wow, he has a nice smile. Would you like the bag of rye chips? I asked. He smiled, his nice smile, and shook his head. Then he walked away. Last night, I thought about him again. I thought about his smile, and I thought maybe I'd actually tell him he had a nice smile. I don't know. Maybe he was someone I could talk to in the line more than just, here's your change. But today I noticed he didn't come to my line. We had the trail mix and everything. Then I noticed there was no one in my line. The people in my line were walking away from the line, running.
There was all this commotion.
And I stepped away from the PA system to see what was going on.
Kids were yelling.
Screaming.
I couldn't see out my window.
I couldn't see past the people.
So I rushed up the big steps in the quad.
I ran to the side of the building,
I ran out of the cafeteria to see Jack.
standing on the rooftop.
Jack on top of building B.
Jack? How did he get up there?
People were screaming.
Hollering.
They didn't know what was going on.
They thought it was so cool that he got up that high.
Careful!
Someone yelled. I remember someone yelled, careful,
Like he was playing some sort of stunt or trick.
making so much noise.
But I saw his face.
Just staring out
Blank.
at all of us.
Past all of us.
Then
I think he smiled.
he
He raised his hand.
Then
Everyone got quiet. Everyone looked up at Jack.
No one said a word.
then